Hello and welcome to the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I'm your host, Matt Belair. Today's guest is the author of Near-Death Lessons. He was also able to build and grow a thriving business while battling cancer, failing kidneys, and several brain operations. Throughout these challenges, he was able to find a way to transform his life from one of fear, struggle, and self-doubt to one of empowerment, success, health, and happiness. Welcome to the show, Chris Jankulovski.
Hey, Matt. Thank you for having me on, mate.
I'm so excited to dive into the show. You have a very fascinating story. Obviously, near-death experiences get everybody very curious. But I even love in the bio, what you shared at the end, where it says like the transformation of, one of fear, struggle, and self-doubt to one of empowerment, success, health, and happiness. And I think that many people struggle with that. That's kind of like the root of what many people's struggles are. So just want to open with that. And I wanted you to, share a little bit about your story and what brought you to writing the book.
Yeah, look, on that point, personal power, we all underestimate and we all devalue our personal power so much because we've never really experienced it. But every time I'm almost killed due to some health adversity, cancer battle, brain operations, and God knows what, it's like a reset button. It's like something happens to my heart, and it's like I have to reevaluate and question everything, my worldview, my assumptions, how I perceive everything. Everything's up for grabs. And every time I do that, I've nearly died. Oh, I'm back. Oh, I nearly died. Oh, I'm back. And I'm always reevaluating how I perceive my reality. You get to a certain point where you just realize it's like an onion layer. That's not necessarily true. Or why do I believe that? You challenge that, you question it, you go through a changing process. And as you change, you go through an onion layer. You just remove these layers and you get core. And the more I go to my core, the more I and we are powerful. As we are, we all have our unique distinctions, our unique capabilities, our unique God-given rights to express those. They're here. We are fully equipped. And the more we can embrace that, it's shocking how far we can go with that.
Well, I love that intro. And there's so much we can touch on here. So do you want to share what kind of brought you to writing the book? And I would love to know your process of like how to get clear, you know what I mean? Because I think that when people come to the end of their life, they have regrets, right? So if you know you're going to die, we know what those regrets are. It's usually not, not chasing your dreams or, sacrificing too much time away from your family and just kind of not prioritizing things to what your highest values are. And I'm curious if you've discovered a process or a system that you go through to like re-engage when you come back and you're like, oh, that was another close one.
Exactly. Sure. Happy to. So first I started writing my book because in 2016, I was busy running a real estate portal in addition to my staffing business. And I was like a crazy person. Like I had so many near-death experiences already. And I just accelerated everything. I went like every near-death experience for me seems to accelerate my commitment, my drive, my energy towards going out there even more. And so I was investing a lot and doing a lot of things. But like, I'll give you an example. Before my second brain operation in 2016 in September, I was not in any one country for more than 10 years for 3 weeks. 3 weeks was the max that I was in any one country, not just city, but the whole country. So I was everywhere. So this brain operation gave me 2 brain tumors. I had the operation to remove the brain tumors. I killed my real estate portal business. I kept my remote staffing business. And during the operation, you're supposed to be smooth, one tumor from this hemisphere, the other tumor from this hemisphere. Instead, one tumor touches and bursts. A tumor, a bloody tumor, just became a very messy, bloody affair brain operation. It went from let's remove 2 blood tumors to let's help this guy survive on this operating table that kills 60% of other people when that happens. I'm one of the lucky 40 that survived it. Not only did he remove and clean up that mess that he made, but he also went into the other hemisphere and got the other tumor out. 5 days in a coma, I woke up and I woke up to nothing working. half my lung didn't work, half my face didn't work. Oh, my half this side works like this. 50 years, 6 years of movement now, and or 7 years. It's a mess. Couldn't speak. My tongue doesn't work still properly. Tone deaf completely. The list goes on. It was scary. Completely lost my balance. It took me 8 months to learn how to walk and talk. I realized at the time I've had a lot of close calls before, and I've got a lot of every one of these close calls. You end up with more collateral damage. Oh, you've lost a kidney to cancer. Oh, you lost 20% of your vision from here. Oh, But this one, I never thought us as humans will ever live to experience such deformity. I can't say the word very well because my tongue doesn't work anymore. Anyway, deformity. Am I saying that right? So I couldn't. I had two different visions. When I turned this way, my eyes, two of my eye visions that aren't connected would look. When I watched Netflix, I had two of the circles loading, and then it took 3-4 months for the circles to come together, and then I finally had one vision. Anyway, so after that experience, I said, I had my brain operation before the birth of my second son, Billy. So I said, I gotta share my story so my sons would know who their father was, because I didn't know how long I've got to live yet again. After going through that, I thought, man, I might have another year or two if I'm lucky, if I get through this. I was in bed for like 3 months. I wrote the book for my sons originally, but then as I'm in the pool rehabilitating, I was there in this pool reflecting that, wow, here I am a year later, just got on my feet. I've just had this shocking adversity. And now I have to confront that my remaining left kidney has 6 fast-growing cancers that have outgrown from nothing the safety 3 centimeter mark. I've got some at 4 or 5, massive. So now I'm in this pool rehabilitating. I can't move. I've just gone through this disaster. And I'm about to confront my mortality again. Can you believe it? From a brain operation a year later to this serious cancer battle that now I'm living on half a kidney and all these tumors got removed. But while I was in the operating room for the second time a year later, that's when I bargained for my life and said, all right, post 5 days of the operation, I said, all right, God, doc, whatever, give me another 10 years of life and I'll inspire millions. Because I had written the story for my sons, and I thought, I could see the seed of the work. I realized, wow, if I could take this story public, that'll be a whole nother level. And that's what got me to write so I spent 1 year writing it for my kids and then another 5 years writing it publicly, because I didn't want to just share my story. I wanted to share these lessons and distinctions that, frankly speaking, I almost had to die for it to gain. Now, not everyone needs to go through that kind of serious adversity to gain some of those distinctions and perspectives that the ultimate perspectives are always gained from confronting our mortality. It's a grounding experience.
Yeah, I bet. Wow, that sounds like I don't know, train wreck is the word that comes to mind. It's just getting thrown through the washer, just going over and over. Yeah, wow. And to come out on the other side and to have a mentality where you are happy and you're optimistic, and you talk in your book, how do you stop the victim mentality and go into a more optimistic and deliberate life? And I feel like a lot of people who have unhappiness or they go through a midlife crisis is they weren't being delivered. It's kind of, I say their life is on default, where they have these circumstances that come up, right? And they kind of take the easiest job and the easiest things that they can do, and they choose a few pieces here and there, but they aren't deliberate on very important things. And I feel like if we can be more deliberate and more purposeful and get out of the victim mentality, we can have a lot more long-term fulfillment.
Big time, big time. There is no fulfillment being a victim. What is a victim? Let's just get that out of the way. So a victim mindset, from my perspective and from my experience of 13 years, is you being controlled by an external circumstance. In my case, my hereditary condition. My hereditary condition was the controller of my life, not me, because the fear around that, the fear of dying, the fear of this adversity, that I literally have a condition that grows hereditary cancers, for God's sake. I tumor up in all my major organs, and so I was at a point where I was like, my first brain operation after I got diagnosed at 19, told I'll be dead by 30. Here I am now at 32, getting this brain operation, to me, that was a relief because, all right, I finally got this condition. God, kill me. I've had enough of living this victim mindset, living this disempowered person. I don't want to live like that anymore. I don't know what's going to happen after my brain operation. I don't know whether I could talk or walk or breathe or be around for another year or two. I don't care. All I know is that I don't want that anymore. I don't want to live like that anymore. And to me, that first brain tumor was the first moment where I just said, I'm going to focus on life. I'm going to focus on what I can control. I'm going to focus on living the life I want to live. Like, I've had enough of living the other life. And so it's a shame that two things happened to me at that point, which often it's a rock bottom and enough is enough moment. So to me, they were both, and then a serious life-threatening condition just was a sprinkle that got me on rocket fuel the other direction. It's like a bounce. So I bounced from that adversity into a whole nother level. Like I went from broke to multi-millionaire in a few years. I went from disheartened, never knowing what I want in life to always having clarity, no shortage of what I want in life. I went from always doubtful, insecure to confident, clear, committed. I went from always toe in to all in. Mate, it was a massive transformation. And so first, if you're doubtful and insecure about something, I have to let you know about something. If you don't have clarity with your desires, that's because you're running away from something in life. Something, there is something you're running away from. You see, when you confront life, you take life on, you embrace your power, you just do your best. You know, that's all you can control, your actions, your thoughts. Forget about the rest. When you do this and you live this way, you don't care about the result. You just don't care. That's just the result. Or you think I'm going to achieve all these things and die and bring them with me, or we're leaving it all here. So it's not, I'm always looking at something and say, well, we get to use, borrow it. We get to, that's just a byproduct of this effort I put in and so on. They're just byproducts. So don't take things personally. If you stuff up, you stuff up. Pick yourself up, try again. You got another day. A new day is a second chance. Every day is a second chance. Why? Who are you to take life for granted, for God's sake? You are a biological miracle walking right here, having an existence, a presence for this life term that's a drop in a bucket called 70, 80, 90 years. Come on. This is a freaking miracle. Imagine you almost died, but you're back. And you almost died, but you're back again. You cannot take this existence for granted. You cannot just walk past miracles and moments. You're in awe, because if you pass and then you try to come back, there's no way you're coming back. But I've got to tell you something. Every time I've passed, there's a couple of things I recognize. One, time feels different. It's like I've shifted time dimensions. It's slower. It doesn't feel like time here. That's one thing. Two, I am not in my body presence. I have no physical form. I have no emotional necessarily connection, or I just have this awareness. I have presence. I feel my presence and awareness in a black void somehow. So why am I still present? I don't know, but I really am. I'm always crossover and I'm always present. I'm not in my body though. I can feel it because I don't feel temperature or sensation, or I don't have any limbs or anything, but I'm present. So now that I've gone there and I come back, but I'm present. I'll give you a clue. When I close my eyes, I'm in that same place. So I think life and death coexist.
Well, that's fascinating. I'm curious. Well, there's a lot of ways I want to. Let's just start here. Did you discuss the 3 main tips to deliberate life? Did you include those in there? Because
Sure.
I love that. Yeah, I'd love that for clarity, and then I'm going to dive into some other stuff. But I got to stay on track here.
Look, I know I'm covering a lot of topics here, but first and foremost, you recognize this victim mindset and get out of that. Just know that you need to be the controller in your life. You got to control your life, not these circumstances. Circumstances outside of you are not the things that should be controlling your life. You and only you. It's your life. You should be controlling your life, not these adversities or circumstances that you're in. They're just circumstances. They're just moments in time that will pass. So first and foremost, then, therefore, if you're in control of you, what's the biggest thing that's your responsibility? Believe it or not, your biggest responsibility in this life is self-discovery, understanding who you are so you can therefore have more clarity with what you want. Because having clarity with what you want gives you power. Clarity is power. Why? Because it means you can go all in. It means you can put everything behind it. You ain't got nothing to lose. You're not getting out of here alive. So why settle for the status quo? Why? Why settle to preconceived limitations just because you've understood something or just because you see something in this worldview? Expand it. So number one is get clarity. You must have clarity with your desire. Do not underestimate your desires and the power of that. Why? Because your desires have energy. Your desires have your focus increases, your commitment and attention, your drive, your hunger, everything commits like to a next level when you've got a desire in something. So that's why your clarity in desires are very important. Understand your whys. Understand, why is this something that excites me or puts a smile on my face? Why is this of interest? You got to dive deep, man. You got to try, because I've never known what I want in my life until I've experienced what I don't want. I know I don't want that, and therefore I'll prefer that. That's how I've gone through things all the way. I'm not blessed to say, well, I'm 7 and I want to be a doctor. I've never been that. I've been the guy that, I'll try that. Oh, that didn't go well. I don't want to do that again. I'll try that. I didn't realize I was good at marketing. I like marketing. I tried more marketing. I learned about marketing. You see how you kind of just bounce around? Number 2, stop committing to things on this short window of I'll try. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'll stop. I'll stop at the end of this quarter or this month or this week, or I'll give it a go. No. If it's important to you, I've got a tip for you. If it's important and you got that clarity, who's to say it's not going to be important for you even when you're dead? You see, something that's important for you is actually important for you whether you are alive or dead. So therefore, commit all year round. Commit 6 months minimum block. Do not commit anything less. You ain't gonna fuck up enough, excuse my French, to learn enough how to make progress. You need to put in that time. Everyone just commits too short, or they don't give it a go enough. They haven't failed enough. They haven't grown enough. You see, when we apply ourselves, there's a plan, and then there's the reality that nothing goes to plan. We all know this, but we don't go through this journey enough, because when we go through this journey enough, that's when we develop the skills. That's when we refine our capability and knowledges. We get better. So commit. So number 1, clarity with your desires. Number 2, commit all year round. If you can, minimum 6 months. And the last and final one, block your time. You know, in this busy day and age of ours, we're all running around chasing our tails. We get inspired here. We get pulled over here. There's so much information everywhere. But you know what? We need to block out our time, because focus. Remember I said there's power in clarity. There's also power in focus. More people are more distracted today than ever before. We must just focus, and therefore schedule our most important resource, our time. Our time needs to be sacred. And when we block out a time towards our commitments, our desires, you'll be shocked at how far you can go if you do that all year.
Amazing. I love all that. The first thing it reminds me of is Michael Lozier, who mentored me in the law of attraction, and what he would help you when you're trying to get deliberate on what you want is just like, well, what don't you want? Like if you're trying to find an ideal job, what don't you like about all the job? Or, you know, a lot of people are very good at finding all the things that they don't like, right? And experiment. And then that way it gives you more clarity, and then you focus on that clarity. You focus on the thing that you want. And you began with saying, you know, the importance of knowing yourself. That's going to give you the ability to go all in. And if you don't really know yourself and you don't have that clarity, you're not going to have the commitment to go full force in the thing that you're inspired to create or inspired to do. And I've given the suggestion that if you're not willing to put 10 years towards it, at least a direction, then you haven't got enough clarity, right? Because then you're going to be jumping off the bandwagon. You might not know precisely what it is, but you better have the general direction of inspiration. And as you move in that, it'll refine. over the weeks, over the months, and over the years, but you kind of, start going north, east, south, or west, then you're north, and then it's like, oh, it's northeast. And then you refine as you get more experiences, more time, and more dedication. So I think that all of that is incredibly practical. And I wanted to go back to the idea of fear and hopelessness, because I can sense your optimism and your zest for life. And I think that is very wonderful. And I feel like so many people don't have that. And I feel like they're stuck in fear. And I'm just curious how, from your perspective of like nearly almost dying a whole bunch of times, where you transcended that, or when people feel hopeless, because the most annoying thing is when you're depressed is people like, don't take life for granted. You're just like, shut the hell up. Like, I hate everything.
Yeah.
I don't, you know what I mean?
That guy.
And I've been there. I feel like I'm very blessed in a lot of my life, but I feel like I can also get very low in that sense where I'm like, holy, like I got to try again. I gotta, even the last couple of years have been really rough. I had to pick myself up again. And people are like, oh, you're doing so well. I'm like, well, this one part is good, but this part got decimated again. And now I have to like, holy, like just, try again. And I think I'm just too stubborn, but I know that feeling of just being so frustrated. And I feel like that's where it leads into hopelessness. And that's when we get really dark. That's when it gets into depression and it gets worse and worse. And people sometimes, want to do crazy things and take their own life. And that's the worst end of it, but they do it because they don't see any hope. And I'm curious what your lessons could speak to a person like that, or someone who's just like on the downward spiral, like everything sucks, Chris, you happy bastard, everything's all good now. I'm sure you had your rough moments, but now you're so happy. Like, I'm just curious what you would suggest to that type of person.
Yeah, look, first, Matt, for me talking to these people, after my brain operation, I woke up and the first 2 weeks I couldn't talk, right? So the first 2 weeks I spoke to anyone who could hear me, but I understand what I was mumbling. And I just said to them, this is no way to live. I'd rather be dead. I said that for 2 weeks to everyone I met because I wanted to die. I didn't want to live like this. This is ridiculous. How can you expect me to live like that with that much deformity? And my wife was like, yeah, Chris, dying might be easier for you, but we're going to get through this. You dying is not easier for me, so I'm going to keep you alive. So I know what it's like to go to those dark places, first and foremost. Before that operation, I've been in dark places as well, but never that dark. So I just want to share to the audience that I know what the dark places are. So when we get to this point, like my first brain operation, what was fascinating, I was in that point where nothing was working in my life. I felt like I always had insecurities and doubts. I never knew what I wanted. I had no clarity with anything. I was in this dark place, and everything I start, I'd fail. I succeed, I'd change. I'm bored. I was just like that. I never commit. I don't know what commitment meant. For the first until my brain operation, actually at 32, I had no commitment until 32. So, but the brain operation highlighted something to me about the scarcity of our time. I woke up to my mortality. I woke up to the reality that if I die, the insignificance of that, because the birds keep flying, the rivers keep flowing, people are running around, still keep running around. The sun sets, the sun rises, shit carries on without me. That was the ego blow. So first and foremost, we all have to recognize and stop this excessive significance that we all might have, right? We're all insignificant, we're all irrelevant. So tone down. 2, why are you wasting time dealing with shit? You're wasting time feeding yourself shit. Remember, it's how you perceive the reality. So you're perceiving shit, you're giving yourself shit, you're entertaining the shit, you're just full of brain patterns that you've entertained and repeated over and over. Stop, break those patterns. I've got a simple way to break it. Just the moment it comes up, you've got to show awareness that you first recognize that you've got patterns. When I learned neuroplasticity, that's all this is. This is a biological arm that has new patterns that are 7 years old. This one is moving much better because it's got patterns, physical patterns, like in chemical, for 50 years. That's why it's moving better, 70 years. So my 60-year-old and myself were learning to use our bodies at the same time. He outgrew his left arm use than mine at the age of 3 or 4. I'm sorry, at 3. I'm still stuck at around 4, but he's 3. He's 6 now. Anyway, so neuroplasticity and brain patterns is all we are. So stop wasting time on all these negative thoughts and stuff. You can get out of them. They're just brain patterns. And you don't have as much time on this earth as you think you do. And sometimes you lose decades, years in this stuff. So one thing I learned when I lost millions of dollars in one of my businesses versus the first time I lost all my money almost was the difference between the first one, which I took very personally. I thought I'll never succeed, versus the next one when I lost millions of dollars, was I didn't care. I didn't take it personally. I was like, all right, I got a more serious adversity. I got my life to overcome, like 2 brain tumors. So context, relativity. So when you understand your mortality and you understand that how finite our time is, your bullshit that you're entertaining yourself with is relative. Like, seriously, you're doing it to yourself. You don't need to. And you need to break that pattern. It's only up to you to break it. And the way you break a pattern is first to be observant and to be mindful that it's just a pattern of shit that you're telling yourself of how you perceive something. And in reality, it's the reality you're perceiving. Whether it's real or not, who cares? It's a perception. So break that and then expand your knowledge. We live in a day where AI is here, where Google and the internet and everything is here. Get the information, expand your knowledge in that perception that you've got. The world is blah. Well, is it really? Expand that knowledge. The more you expand, the more you can argue with yourself. You see, all of this negativity is a battle between you and you. Comes up, you need to take on that battle with you. Do not. When there's no one else looking and it's just you and you, your awareness of you, observing yourself, you and you. It's you and you. You must convince you that you in here, this deep, deep, deep voice that's so silent, but freaking controls you. Who's in control? I've got some good news for you. That little deep voice doesn't have to control you. You can be in control of your life. That voice, actually, when you work in harmony with it, is an incredibly powerful. It's part of how your subconscious mind communicates to you. It's incredible. The heart space and the mind space opens you up as a serious receiver. You get access to this incredible knowledge. It's bizarre. It's like when you've got this clarity and you're connected, you have the universe conspiring to help you. Many people say it, and it's true.
Well, I love that. I love the perception piece, because it's like you're talking about wasting the whole day right through or even weeks and years, and an entire lifetime can be wasted through like these loops. So awareness is number one, and then just recognizing that you can change that pattern, and I like to switch it to, well, what would you be excited about, or where are you now? You know what I mean? Even just go for a walk, just learning to nip it in the butt, and then say, one I liked recently is like, well, what if it all worked out? What about the best case scenario? What inspires you? And just switch that and try to spend more time there, because that's going to influence the results you get. And you're right. When you share, like, leaders are people who master this, they're able to take a big loss and know that they can bounce back, because that's their perception. They're like, I'm not attached to this result. I am capable of doing whatever I set my mind to, and that's what I'm going to focus on. So I think that's so important. And in your book,
we're all creators. So that's just a creation that just went wrong. Okay, try again. Try something else. Create something else. You're not limited to creating. You're not limited to change and creation. Yeah.
Yeah. And in your book, you have a chapter that says, live like it's your last year alive. I love that, because that's an exercise I do for myself, and that I do for the people that I coach. I was like, all right, well, take a few moments. What if you only had 1 year to live? What would that look like? What would you do? What would you change? And I'm curious if it's something similar to that.
Yeah, well done. I mean, everyone used to, after my brain operation, everyone kept telling me, live as if it's your last day alive. Like, nah, that's giving me anxiety. Because if I'm living as if it's my last day alive, I can't be strategic. I can't schedule. I can't plan. I can't invest my energies and time in appropriate ways. But if it's my last year alive, because you see, every year I get scans for my brain, for my kidneys, and So the way I see it is that when I get the scans towards the end of the year, it's like I see them on. I play this game with myself. I say, well, this is like your certificate to live life to the fullest next year. Get the scans, get your certificate. You're okay. Live life to the fullest. Now I'm at a point, I don't care what these results are, because like right now I've got 3 cancerous tumors in my remaining half kidney. I've got 6 brain tumors. And guess what? I don't care. It doesn't matter. So what? They're just outside of my control. So why do I have to worry and invest all this energy and time? Oh, maybe my mortality is at risk. Who cares? So what? It's out of my control. Stop worrying about shit that's out of your control. It's so liberating when you don't have to worry about shit. You just focus on what you can do. Your actions, your thoughts. Oh, there's power there. So sorry, your question about living deliberately. Let me get back to that question. Living deliberately all year round starts for me with getting clarity, which we discussed before. But beyond clarity, I first schedule important events all year. So my birthday, my wife's birthday, my little son's birthday, my 12-year-old, my 6-year-old. Then we do seasons. There are scheduled things around seasons because sometimes we are different parts of the world. And then I schedule moments. Like I go, okay, well, it's winter. I want to arrange an awesome winter escape, or it's summer. I want to arrange this awesome tropical experience. Or I design and create and put things in there, because guess what? If you don't schedule things in, if you don't set your mind to saying, I need and I want to do this, or I want to achieve this, or I want to become this, I want to read these books, or achieve this kind of revenue, or hire this many people, or whatever it is, if you don't schedule that in and work towards it, time will pass you by much faster than you realize. And before you know it, the year has passed, and you look at so I play a game. I look at my photos at the end of every year, and I look at like every month, January, February, March, April. And I look at every those random photos I've taken. I go, was in the month of January, I take note. What was the bit that I set out to want to do deliberately and achieve? What did I achieve? Did I achieve that experience? Did I buy that car? Or what is it that I set out deliberately to do? First, you have to acknowledge and look at the year that was and say, well, how much of this year, the past, was organic, just evolved and just happened, versus what I set out to do? So you must understand that. And then you realize something, that to live a deliberate life is to have deliberate actions, deliberate desires and clarity with those, and to set your mind towards going for it. Not once, but going for it till you do. And so I've been doing that, and I've been doing it across, and I label all these desires. Family commitments, the house, the business, the personal stuff, the spiritual stuff, whatever it is, I categorize them. I have only 1 or 2 big ones that I go after at any one time. I can't focus on too many things, but I got to focus on all facets of us. There is the emotional side of us, the mental, spiritual, community, physical, the list goes on. So do not go all in on one category. You've got to embrace the spectrum of life. Life is an incredible color, and it's very dull and limiting if you just are master in one domain. Oh, but I'm a multi-billionaire. Yeah, but you've got no one you love. Okay. Oh, but I've got an incredible family, but I'm broke. Right. Yeah. Spectrum. Do not just shine in one light. You can shine in all of them. Don't think just because you're shining in one that you can't shine in all. You can.
I love that. And I totally agree. It's so important to map things out. And then also the categories of your business, your personal life, your family, your relationships, your spirituality, your mindset, the things that you like to do, your body. So then we put through those categories. And then at least when we write them down and we make a plan, we can assess what is going wrong. Right. So that, we look at those categories, right? I'm like, oh, you know what, this year, my health went to crap. We better fix that. Or even last month, right? Oh, this year, the family relationships are great, but we need a little bit more money, or money's great, but I didn't get enough time with the kids. And so then at least you're kind of steering the ship. I like to give the analogy of being like a boat on the ocean, and it's just like steering. It's just refining where you are, and you have to get feedback to know where you're going and if it's the place that you prefer to go or you're going in a direction that you don't like. Because if you don't correct it, right, the relationships will get worse, the money will probably get worse, whatever the category is, and you have the ability to course correct. So it starts with awareness, and that's the importance of writing things down, planning, and then giving some time and attention to it so you can have that holistic balance. And in studying peak performance, it's interesting because, if you want to win in the Olympics, you kind of have to, like, one coach put it, like, commit suicide to everything else. Like, you have to want it so bad where all the relationships and everything, it's just this one goal, and that can be perfect for an individual for a period of time. But as you get into the later years, the balance is, I think, becomes more important, right? With your family, with your work life, with your health and things like that. And that's going to exercise your longevity. You can still master and go into peak performance and achieve great success, but you want to be mindful of the other sacrifices that you'll make when you have family and when you have other things that you want to take care of.
And look, it depends what age you are, because when you're in your early 20s, some of the things we're talking about, who cares?
Yeah.
Because in your early 20s, it's all about your socializing, your moments of fun and all this stuff, and nothing else matters. It's fine. It's a life. It's a journey. You go through whatever journey you're at, wherever you're at, it's fine. But there's, I think you have to understand that, everything changes around us. Nothing stays. We all assume that the friends we make in our 20s are the friends that are going to be around us in our 50s. No. Or that the things we enjoy when we were teenagers are things we're going to enjoy when we're in our 40s. No. So things evolve and change, and you do as well. And so the way people think of themselves and they have this perception of themselves, they need to understand that as time passes, we change. Whether you like it or not, we change. Are you going to change organically? Are you going to allow the world and the environment to shape you all the time, your experiences? Or are you going to do something about it and recognize that actually you can shape yourself? You can choose how you want to manifest yourself, how you want to show up, how you want to be present here on this time that you're now going to have at a certain period of age. It's our choice.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And one thing I want to make sure that we touched on is you talk about the unstoppable attitude, and especially in the face of adversity. And I think that's so important, how we respond to things. And I've often said it's or heard, or it's just a lesson that it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond to it. And that's one of the core teachings that when I'm teaching an athlete that I want them to understand as like a core principle. So, you can miss a shot or you could fail. It's not so much what happens, it's how you're going to respond. That's where you get your power from. That's how you shape who you're going to be. And I'm just curious your take on the unstoppable attitude.
Look, when you overcome cancer battles, learn to walk and talk 8 months and stuff, and you're still back on your feet, you still manage to double your business. You go from a $4 million house to $16 million house, $16 million in 8 months, or you do all this crazy stuff, you feel unstoppable because you just keep bouncing back higher and higher. So what is it about having an unstoppable attitude? Well, it's this resolve, isn't it? At the end of the day, no, I am committed. I am resolved to achieving this, to being this, or wanting this. I tell the world, I am okay to completely collapse and fail and look like an idiot, because I know that the result's not important. It's what matters to me that's more important. I'm going to go for it. So that's something that I think is ingredients for an unstoppable attitude. Like, who cares? Like, that's one thing. Two, sometimes we go through things and we need to take some time out. We need to heal. Taking time out matters. Sometimes you take a blow. Can't just keep going and going and going. Sometimes you need to stop, re-energize, heal, gain some perspectives, distinctions. I've gained more power in silence than I've gained. Like, I'll give you an example. I spent $190,000 on personal development in the early 2000s. And yet I'm in India in 2006, meditating for 3 weeks. I grew more in those 3 weeks doing nothing in silence than I did for 4 years in all this personal development stuff. Huh? What the hell? What's going on there? Something, right? Isn't it? It's fascinating. So take time out. Stop. You'll be shocked at how much you can heal and grow by slowing down and healing sometimes. 2, I think when you cop it and lose and you're confused and you're constantly struggling with things, you have to understand when you've stopped and you're healing at the moment, you have to understand that you have to just keep your focus on the things you can control. After my brain operation, I learned that with limited energy, we all have limited energy. You see, energy is such a funny thing because we think it's unlimited. No. We need to sleep. We do have limited energy to focus, limited energy to apply ourselves. So stop wasting energy or giving energy. So you must be a little bit more deliberate with how you use your energy. It's not unlimited. You have limited energy every day. So I think when you stop for a while, and then you have to shift your focus to what you can control and invest your energies there. When you've done all this, you've got to find yourself in a situation where, you've done the shifting of focus. You're investing your energies here, taking one step at a time now, instead of jumping all the time. You're taking one step at a time, you're reevaluating. You have to understand that hope, there's a lot of power in hope. You have to maintain hope. You cannot lose hope. When something fails and goes wrong, hope is the difference between believing in the future and not believing in the future. I didn't believe in the future when I was diagnosed at 19, told that I'd be dead by 30. I lived a life of not believing in the future. What's the point? I'm dead. I had no hope of the future. Therefore, I didn't plan. Until that brain operation at 32. Now, I plan for futures, whether I am here or not, because I don't care. If I'm dead, I'm still planning for a future. Again, why? Because if something's important for me, I know it's important for me whether I'm here or not. Why is something not important for me anymore if I'm dead? Well, you think my family, my children are not important anymore? No, they're still important. I'm just not here in a physical form to do anything about it. But it's still important for me. God knows where. So when you plan, focus on believing in the future. Be motivated, as you said, by the future. What a shift that is. What a concept that is, to be motivated by a desire, not be motivated by your fear. Oh, so many people tell me, but I'm not motivated by my fear. Okay, yeah. When you've spoken to me for the last 10 minutes, Mr. Friend, whoever you are, nine of those minutes were you talking about your fears and shit going wrong or what you're worried about. What are you motivated by? You just told me you're motivated 9 minutes, 90% of that time, you're motivated and expressing your motivation in fear. You're not sharing your motivation in the opportunity, on what the energy that's driving you towards wanting to get that result so badly. Simple things, but we got to be presently aware of what's motivating us as well.
Yeah, that's a really key concept of just even what you're sharing and the amount of energy, because you want to be mindful with a potential risk of something that you're going to be doing. However, if 90% of your conversation is on the fear or what if it goes wrong, versus what I kind of alluded to earlier that was helpful for me is like, what if it works out? What if it's the best case scenario? So, maybe you had a challenge, but you don't spend 40 minutes talking about the challenge. You spend, the 40 minutes talking about what you're going to do to overcome that challenge. So, I'm going to pivot this way and, I'm going to go do all this and just spend all that energy. Because if you think of it as like a scoreboard, right? A daily scoreboard, and you get 100, and 100 of those points are 90 of those points or more are talking about fears and motivated fears and what can go wrong and what did go wrong, versus 90 to 100% on just creation, how, what you can do, what you can focus on, what the best case scenario looks like, what the solution could be. And this is, I'm coaching myself here because I've dealt with a lot of adversity recently. And I've been repeating the story of like, like I even actually repeated it to you before we started, as I'm still dealing with some of this stuff of, the censorship and all that, but what's the solution? And I'm excited about some of the things I'm doing. So I just need to be mindful of like, try to put 100% on just what the solution is, even though if I know what the issue is, once I've addressed it and I thought about it, then just park it to the side and focus all that energy on what I can do. What's the solution? What's the best case scenario? And that is definitely going to improve my results. It can not improve my results. It's definitely not going to. It's definitely not going to.
There is one way it can get worse. There's only one way.
Oh shoot! All right, let me know.
Ready? Here we go. I'm sorry to break the news. If you do not accept your current reality, you will not have grounding of where your feet are. You will not know how to make the steps forward in the right direction. If you do not accept the reality, you have to accept the realities you're at. Because sometimes people, we dream and we've got such big plans, we don't accept the realities of where we are beginning from or where we are currently at. Oh, I've been trying this for the last 6 months, it's all been failing. You have to wake up to the reality. Stop trying friggin'. Why are you hitting your head over and over for 6 months? You ain't going to learn the lesson because you ain't got your feet planted to the reality. You're not showing enough awareness to go, oh, doing that for 6 months doesn't work. Yeah. Shift your direction completely. Stop going that way. You got to go that way. You won't have the discernment. So that's another battle that I see a lot of people having is, including myself. I mean, accepting reality is always the hardest thing. I know it sounds funny, but accepting our reality is the hardest thing. Do you know that even after all my adversities in my brain operation, that I talked about all those adversities, couldn't see and all this stuff, walk and talk, bedbound for 3 months, that it took me 2.5 months to wake up to the reality that this operation is done. I can't change it. I just have to accept the reality. And it was such a liberating experience because before I accepted that reality, I was obsessing about the problem. I was obsessing about all the things that aren't working. My temperature sensation on my right's gone. I can put it in the shower. I won't feel anything. I'm freezing, but I can't move. And anyway, problem. Energy gone to negative. What's not working? The moment I accepted my reality, I shifted my energies to what I can control. Solutions, understanding how to be a little bit more effective with the use of my energy. Incredible how much progress you can make. I made progress to get back on my feet to be who I am today from somebody who I had to have a belt on me and a heavy duty walker, and I had to have somebody hold me to be upright and swing my leg to walk so that I can learn to fire up my synapses again to start learning how to use my body again. It's a fascinating experience.
Wow. Well, I love that. I see the sports analogy to it right away. And I put a lot of what I learned in personal development, I compare it to sport. And if like it doesn't line up in sport, usually it's some nonsense, but like not accepting where you are is when an athlete wants to learn a trick and they're stepping too up. They're like, oh, I want to hit this jump right now. I'm like, bro, you haven't even hit this one. Like, yes, we want to progress. However, you are not ready for that. Or they want to launch a backflip or something. I was like, you have not developed the skill base to now try this back. You want to go step by step because then you can have these building blocks. And then I'm also reminded of, what I perceive to be an awakened person, somebody who's living consciously and deliberately, and they have to accept their reality for what it is. And now I'm getting an upgrade into that thought. If they can do it from a state of contentment and peace, then they're really cooking. If they can be content, happy, and fulfilled with whatever they have and grateful, man, that person is really kicking butt because there's nothing that they need outside of themselves. And then they can put all their power to creating, and they're not attached to the result, like you said. So right now it sounds like you're a multimillionaire. Is that a thing? Is that what you are? Is that kind of alluding? Did you do it?
I've done it, and I'm living my dream life.
Well, I only bring it up because it's like, it's like of the whole conversation, that's not even like what you're about, like achieving the money, right? It's just like, this is that's a thing, right? But some people, their whole value set is on just achieving the money, and then that will bring the happiness and fulfillment. Then all these other things come, right? But it's just an expression. And I've heard it before, like, I don't know, they say like 30 grand a month, like you don't really need more than that, or it depends on who you are. It can be way, way, way less. I know people from around the world, and you've probably seen it too, that barely have anything and have way more fulfillment, happiness, and connection and quality of life, where people who are, in the millionaires. So again, it's just to kind of get back to, if you can be wherever you are in contentment and fulfillment and happiness and gratitude for wherever you are, accept your reality for whatever it is. This is the stage you're in, and then use all your energy to create. That is a very powerful framework to navigate reality in.
I didn't want to die and never been remembered, or nobody ever knowing that I even existed. I think all of us strive to make a mark. We all want our lives to matter and count in some way. And that can only happen when we are focusing outside of ourselves, and we are focused on serving and contributing and applying our creativity, applying ourselves to serve. It's the only time it's really deeply fulfilling and enriching. It's the only time you know where you can shine. So I wanted to bring up that topic because so many people are so obsessed with their own needs. They don't realize that so many of our needs are met when we focus outside of ourselves. Because I think we're all brought on here on this earth to make our contributions and move on. It's part of the evolution of nature. Yeah, you see a tree, there's a leaf on the tree, and you might say, but so what? Chris, you're running an offshore staffing business, you're employing people, yeah, you're helping entrepreneurs grow their businesses, yeah, you and everybody else. Okay, I don't care about everybody else. I care about what I'm doing, and I care about the impact I'm making to that individual and that business and that person who that client is now, they're working together and what's happened to their journey. I'm focused on the impact I'm making. I don't care about trying to be different all the time. So I think one of the biggest issues I think a lot of people have is that they feel like a purpose and a meaning needs to be unique. No, it does not. It needs to be uniquely important and relevant to oneself, not your parents, not your society expectations, not your friends, or God knows what. It's what's really truly lights your fire. Because once you've lit, there's no way anything can burn out your flame.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny because that's the second tenet that I've kind of deduced from a lot of podcasts and a lot of conversations of what I perceive to be awakened person is they're going from the state of what can I get, all about me, to how can I give, how can I serve, how can I make an impact. So their intention is outside of themselves, but it also comes from the expression of knowing themselves that it matters to them and they enjoy it. So why not do that, right? It's like, let's do something that can help other people, like you said, uniquely inspiring to me, and it makes a positive impact. That's a very beautiful and aligned thing. And if God or the universe, or however you want to do it, I'll just say God because I like that better, wants to support something, it will be that, because it's like you're helping all of the creation here, of all the things that we've that God has created. And I'm curious your thoughts on that. That's the one thing I want to ask, is like your spiritual or religious beliefs, have they changed since your experiences, and what would you share with like your kids? Like, do you fear death or the other side? Do you think there's life over there? How do you think we have a spiritual connection, get into heaven or graduate the realm, or how do you see all that now?
So let's just try it right now. Let's do a demonstration.
All right.
So just feel your heart.
Okay.
So sometimes when you connect it to your heart, and I'm connected to my heart, we would feel something no matter where we are in the world. So when my father was dying, all these months I went to see him, I didn't think he was, whatever. I kept telling him, stop mourning somebody who's not dying. Well, no one knows when he's going to die, so why mourn him? But then many months later, I'm back in the Philippines working on my businesses, and I wake up one morning and I feel my heart burning on fire. I knew my father was dying. I couldn't stop thinking about anything but this feeling. And I knew I had to go back to Australia to see my dad before he passes away. I knew he was dying. No one called me. No one sent me an email. I didn't know, other than my heart knew. How amazing. I said to my wife, I'm going to take some time out. I'm going out of my office. I'm going to go get a massage. I couldn't even lie on the massage table because my chest was hurting. Do you feel your heart right now?
Mm-hmm.
Why? That's the spiritual connection. It's this heart-to-heart connection. Spirituality and our subconsciousness does not, because it's such a powerful beast, it does not connect to us through language. It connects to us through feelings and vision, like sometimes what we might see or perceive that we've seen. So our spiritual connection is like this, and it can happen all over the world when you feel it. Well, you think a rock can feel something when you're having a conversation with it, or a living flesh. And what's funny? Animals can feel it. Anyone can feel it. So to me, that's the spiritual bizarreness. Like halfway around the world, we can feel something even through this digital form, but in our physical presence, we can feel it much more so. So that's one way. Another thing that I've learned is that somehow, whatever it is, our consciousness, our self-awareness continues. I don't know why. At 25, for example, let me run through the 8 near-death experiences that the audience might want to freak out and go, what do you mean 8 near? That's bullshit. Let me tell you why it's not bullshit. It's 8 near-death experiences over 50 years, okay? It's not 8 back-to-back. It's 8 over 50 years. So first one was a 7, appendix burst. Nearly killed me, 2 weeks in the in the hospital. Next one was at 21. I inhaled water. I got caught in a rip. I was out there and I inhaled water. That was a typical near-death experience. I gained all this peace and I'm just looking in the ocean. I was so peaceful. Everything went quiet. I saw my life flash before me from 21 down to the only things that flashed were important people in my life and moments. That was it. And then I woke up. The next one was 25 in an eye operation. Can you imagine the nightmare of waking up in an eye operation of all things? My jaws clamp and I feel the needle in the eye move like an egg and then poke in. It was like, ah! And I'm like, ah! But I can't scream because my jaw's closed. So they must have overdosed me because I woke up in the operating room. And so when I got into the ICU ward, I flatlined. And I saw the thing on my finger and I said, well, I could barely move my head and I could see it on the edge of my vision. I could see it was on, but the machine was flatlining. I don't know why. I thought something was wrong with the machine. I went into this, everything went white and everything became very peaceful again. And I felt this different time dimension again. I knew, hey, I'm like, whoa, hey, I'm not going anywhere. It's my sister's wedding. So why am I still having this conscious awareness and experience? I don't know, but I did. Then the kidney operation, the brain operation. There's so many of these moments where I'm observant. Like the brain operation that I mentioned, that the tumor bursting, that was intense. Imagine I was again in out of body experience, non-physical form. I'm having a conversation. I don't know what the conversation's about with somebody on my left about returning to my body, and that if I don't return now, it's going to be too late. And then my father, who passed 4 months away earlier that I mentioned, he was on my top right. I feel him panicking. I don't know what he was saying, but I feel him panicking, pleading with somebody or me or whatever to return back to my body. I'm like, all right, I'm going to return. And then bang, I'm back in my body. Again, I was in a 5-day coma state. But I remember that very vividly. Wow. What are these just dreams? I don't know. Just know that it's presence.
Wow. Well, that's wild. Chris, this has been a pleasure. And everything that you shared is so simple, but practical. And I think important. And I feel like if anyone can just take an empowering perspective, you know what I mean? For one of these ideas to apply the empowering perspective when the inevitable happens, when we get down or we get fearful or we get doubtful or whatever, just to remember it and try to re-engage in the positive, because you see people create great things and it seems like you've got a great family and you balance things out nice and your business is running. And that's what we want. We want safety, security, energy to thrive and to make an impact. And it is possible when you align all these things up. And then, as you said, it's not all about the results, right? Everything is lined up. And if you can do it from a state of contentment, you're going to be able to overcome the challenges that arise. So this has been very beautiful. Is there anything that you wish that I'd asked or that you want to talk about before we close the show?
Look, I mean, I just want to give people perspective that, look, I'm 50. I've had plenty of years where I've been a victim for 13 years, and now I've been this self-empowered individual for 17 plus 18 years. You got to remember that there's phases in life. The seasons change and come and go. Same with your life. Stop obsessing about the season you're in, like as if it's going to be the right for the rest of your life. It's just something you're playing in your head. So just know that, even when you're up, again, that song, Sinatra, I think when you're flying, just when you're flying high, you get shot down. Same thing, the paradox of success and failure. But again, these are all things outside of us. Control what's inside, your thoughts and actions. So much more liberating when you can live like this and apply your creativity and know that you're contributing. You've got, what are the doubts and insecurities will you have when you are trying to apply yourself to serve and contribute and make an impact? It goes away.
Absolutely. I love it. And if people want to follow you, I don't know if you're active on social at all, or get the book or learn more, where should they go?
Yeah, I know it's a tongue twister, but chrisjankulovski.com. I'll be getting a URL, like say chrisj.love as an example. I'm going to redirect it, but I'm sure you'll put on the website link on this, and near-death lessons, like near-death experience, but near-death-lessons.com as well. You can find me that way. But yeah, I'm starting this work now to go more on a social media community generating journey ahead of me, just to share these distinctions, and very simple but powerful distinctions, perspectives that I hope can benefit and shape people's lives.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate you and your work, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, mate, for having me on.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks, guys, for watching. See you in the next.